The email subject line was simple enough to stop Serena's heart. Meeting request, policy review. It came from Audrey Vance. The Audrey Vance. The woman who had restructured the entire benefits package in a week. The woman whose blazers were so sharp they could theoretically cut glass. The woman Serena had been nursing a silent, catastrophic crush on since the company holiday party 3 years ago. Serena smoothed down her vintage band t-shirt, suddenly regretting her choice of casual Friday attire on a Tuesday, and took the elevator up to the 40th floor. The air up here was thinner, cooler, and smelled strictly of expensive espresso and anxiety. "Come in." Audrey's voice came through the frosted glass door. Serena entered. Audrey was sitting behind a desk that looked more like an aircraft carrier than furniture. She didn't look up immediately, finishing a note in a leather-bound planner. When she finally raised her eyes, Serena felt that familiar jolt, a mix of intimidation and attraction that made her palms sweat. "Sit down, Serena," Audrey said, gesturing to the gray chair. Her voice was calm, professional, and utterly terrifying. "Do you know why I called you up here? Is it about the meme I put in the Slack channel?" Serena asked quickly. "Because legal said it was borderline, but not actionable." A ghost of a smile touched Audrey's lips before she suppressed it. "No. It's about your vacation rollover request. You filled out the wrong form. Again." Serena let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. "Oh, that." "Yes, that," Audrey said, sliding a paper across the desk. "You're a brilliant writer, Serena. Marketing sings your praises. But you seem incapable of following basic administrative procedure." "Forms don't have a narrative arc," Serena defended weakly. Audrey leaned forward, clasping her hands. Her eyes were a piercing shade of hazel. "I fixed it for you. This time. But I need you to sign the amendment." As Serena reached for the pen, her fingers brushed against Audrey's. It was a static shock, literal and metaphorical. They both pulled back sharply. For a second, the professional veneer cracked. Audrey looked at Serena, really looked at her, not as an employee ID number, but as a person. "Thank you, Audrey," Serena whispered. "Just sign it, Serena." Audrey's voice was a fraction lower than usual. "And get back to work." Over the next month, the dynamic shifted. It started with small things. Serena would accidentally take her coffee break at 10 a.m., the exact time Audrey went to the break room for her herbal tea. They talked about work at first, then safer topics like weather, and eventually, the conversations deepened. Serena learned that Audrey, the ice queen of HR, obsessively collected vinyl records and had a rescue greyhound named Barnaby. Audrey learned that Serena was writing a novel on weekends and was terrified of birds. The tension was a physical weight in the office. It was in the way Audrey's eyes lingered on Serena during the quarterly all-hands meeting. It was in the way Serena started dressing up for work, trading the t-shirts for button-downs, hoping Audrey would notice. But the Employee Handbook, a document Audrey knew by heart, was the third person in their relationship. Section 4, Paragraph 2, Fraternization. Supervisors were strictly prohibited from dating subordinates, and while Audrey wasn't Serena's direct manager, being the head of HR made everyone technically under her jurisdiction regarding conduct. One rainy Tuesday in November, Serena stayed late. The office was deserted, the lights dimmed to the emergency banks. She was wrestling with a tagline for a new campaign when she heard heels clicking on the hardwood floor. Audrey appeared in the doorway of Serena's cubicle, holding 2 takeout containers. "Thai food," Audrey said simply. "I saw your light was still on. I figured you hadn't eaten." Serena swiveled her chair around, heart hammering. "Is this a policy violation? Feeding the wildlife?" "Consider it a wellness initiative," Audrey said, pulling up a spare chair. She looked tired. The perfect bun was slightly loose, a few strands of dark hair framing her face. She looked softer, more accessible. They ate in comfortable silence for a while, the rain lashing against the floor-to-ceiling windows. "Why are you still here, Audrey?" Serena asked, poking at her pad thai. "You run the place. You can leave whenever you want." Audrey sighed, leaning back. "It's lonely at the top, Serena. And I didn't want to go home yet." She looked at Serena, her gaze intense. "I knew you were here." The air in the cubicle suddenly felt very thin. I'm glad you came by, Serena said, her voice shaking slightly. I shouldn't have, Audrey whispered. She stood up abruptly. I should go. Audrey, wait. Serena stood up too, blocking the exit. They were inches apart. Serena could smell Audrey's perfume, sandalwood and rain. Serena, I am the HR director, Audrey said, her voice sounding like she was reciting a defense mechanism. I enforce the rules. I cannot break them. Rules are for people who don't know what they want, Serena said, a surge of adrenaline making her bold. Do you know what you want? Audrey didn't speak. Instead, she closed the distance. She took Serena's face in her hands, her thumbs tracing Serena's cheekbones, and kissed her. It wasn't a tentative, testing the waters kiss. It was an outpouring of months of suppressed attraction, a collision of propriety and desire. Serena wrapped her arms around Audrey's waist, pulling her closer, tangling her hands in the hair she'd wanted to touch for years. When they broke apart, breathless, Audrey rested her forehead against Serena's. That, Audrey whispered, was definitely not in the handbook. The weeks that followed were a blur of secrecy and thrill. They developed a covert language. A specific way of arranging pens on a desk meant meet me for lunch 2 blocks away. A particular emoji in a work chat meant I'm thinking about you. They spent weekends at Audrey's pristine apartment, where Serena introduced chaos and laughter. They walked Barnaby the Greyhound in parks far away from the office district. It was perfect. Until the merger. Rumors started swirling in January. A larger conglomerate was buying them out. Layoffs were imminent. And the person tasked with orchestrating the transition, deciding who stayed and who went, was the director of HR. Audrey became distant. The lunch dates stopped. The texts became sporadic. Serena knew Audrey was under immense pressure, but the silence was deafening. Then came the meeting. The marketing team was called into the conference room. Audrey stood at the head of the table, flanked by lawyers. She looked pale, her armor back in place. She read the list of restructured roles. Serena's position was safe, but her best friend on the team, Chloe, was being let go. Later that night, Serena stormed over to Audrey's apartment. She didn't use her key, she knocked loudly. Audrey opened the door, still in her work clothes, looking exhausted. Serena, not tonight. Please. You fired Chloe, Serena said, stepping inside uninvited. I didn't fire her. Her role was made redundant. Don't give me the corporate speak. Serena snapped. How can you be so cold? We were laughing with her at happy hour 2 weeks ago. I have a job to do, Serena. Audrey's voice cracked, the first sign of emotion she'd shown all day. I have to protect the company. I have to be objective. Do you have any idea how hard it is to look at a list of names and know I'm ruining their week? And do you know how much harder it is when I'm terrified that if anyone finds out about us, you will be the next liability I have to cut to save myself? Silence filled the room. The reality of their situation crashed down on them. Is that what I am? Serena asked quietly. A liability? Audrey slumped onto her sofa, burying her face in her hands. You are the only thing that makes me happy, Serena. And that makes you a weakness. In my position, I can't have weaknesses. Serena sat down next to her, the anger draining away, replaced by a dull ache. So what do? We can't keep hiding. It's eating you alive. I don't know, Audrey wept. It was the first time Serena had seen her cry. I don't know. 2 days later, Serena walked into Audrey's office. She didn't knock. She closed the door behind her and engaged the lock. Audrey looked up, startled. Serena, you can't be in here with the door locked. If someone sees. I have a solution, Serena said. She placed a white envelope on the aircraft carrier desk. Audrey stared at it. What is this? It's my resignation. Audrey's face went white. What? No. I won't accept it. You love your job. You're the best copywriter we have. I love you more, Serena said. The words hung in the air, heavy and absolute. I can find another copywriting gig. Agencies are always hiring. But I can't find another you. And I won't let this job turn us into a secret that destroys you. Audrey stood up slowly. She reached out and touched the envelope, but didn't pick it up. You'd leave? For me. Section 4, paragraph 2, Serena quoted, smiling sadly. Supervisors cannot date subordinates. But if I'm not a subordinate, if I'm just Serena. Audrey looked from the letter to Serena. The internal calculation that was always running behind her eyes seemed to glitch, stop, and finally shut down. She walked around the desk. She didn't look at the door. She didn't look at the blinds. She looked only at Serena. I have a counteroffer, Audrey said softly. I'm listening. You hand in this resignation. You serve your 2 weeks' notice. We keep it professional. Serena's heart sank. Okay. And, Audrey continued, a genuine, radiant smile breaking across her face, the minute you walk out of this building on your last day, I am taking you to dinner. In public. And I am going to kiss you in front of the entire city of Chicago. Serena grinned, tears pricking her eyes. Deal. 2 weeks later, Serena packed her box. She said her goodbyes, promised to keep in touch with the survivors of the merger, and handed over her badge to security. She walked through the revolving doors and onto the busy sidewalk. The spring air was crisp. She felt light, unburdened. Waiting at the curb, leaning against a silver sedan, was Audrey. She wasn't wearing a blazer. She was wearing a leather jacket and jeans. She looked less like a director of human resources and more like a woman in love. Serena walked up to her. Excuse me, miss. I think you're loitering in a corporate loading zone. Audrey laughed, a sound Serena wanted to listen to for the rest of her life. I'm waiting for my girlfriend. She just got out of a complicated relationship with a corporation. Sounds messy, Serena teased. It was, Audrey said, stepping forward and pulling Serena in by the lapels of her coat. But she prioritized the important stuff. Audrey kissed her. Right there on the sidewalk, in full view of the 40th floor windows. Cars honked, pedestrians bustled by, but for a long moment, the world narrowed down to just the two of them. So, Serena said, breathless as they pulled apart. Where to now? Audrey opened the car door for her. I don't know. But I haven't looked at my schedule all day. Let's just drive. As they pulled into traffic, Serena looked back at the glass tower one last time, then turned to Audrey, who reached over and interlaced their fingers. No handbook required.